BenDeLaCreme is best known for season 6 of RuPaul's Drag Race and season 3 of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, and of course the Jinkx and DeLa holiday special, which always makes sure to come to Chicagoland. BenDeLaCreme is now a special guest at Teatro Zinzanni through July 19th. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Most people associate you maybe with their television screens, but also Seattle. But Chicago holds a special place to you, your college years and kind of when you started performing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because Teatro Zinzanni's location here is literally around the corner from my first college dorm, which is wild. So I really am right back where I started in Chicago. And it's such a cool full circle thing. Yeah, I went to the School of the Art Institute here. So I'm basically like in the middle of my old campus in the Loop, and which was an incredible experience. That education was so valuable for me, and I still pull so much of what I learned there. It was a school for the fine arts, but so much of what I learned about developing art and concepts still plays into my work. And then at the same time, this is where I turned 21 and started, I entered my first drag competition here, which was at Roscoe's, and was called Drag Race, and I won that first round in 2002 or whatever that was. And yeah, and then I was performing all over Boys Town in the evenings and weekends while I was going to school at the Art Institute. So and now I like to think that I blend all those things together in what I do. So it's back to my roots.
It is definitely back to yours. How did you get connected with Teatro Zinzanni and this part of the show?
Well, that is another kind of return to my roots because after I left Chicago, I moved to Seattle. And in Seattle, I really found an incredible performance community. It was this really interesting time where burlesque and drag and circus arts and dance were all being blended together in these variety spaces. And so I was really loving that integration. And then I started hearing about Teatro Zinzanni, which was, it was in the Queen Anne area of Seattle, which is, where all the big theaters and the ballet and the opera are. And I went to check it out, and it was like the most huge, bombastic, blown up version of all of these things I loved, and I'd never seen anything like it. And I went and I saw this show. The circus artists were all incredible. The environment is so magical, and it's like being transported into a totally different world. And Kevin Kent was the drag comedian at the heart of this thing, and I was absolutely blown away by his skills as a comedian, as an improviser, the way he pulled the audience into everything he did, and it all became immersive. And and yeah, it is actually through Teatro Zinzanni that I met one of my co-producers for the Jinkx and DeLa holiday show. So it all comes back around. And yeah, so to be working with Kevin Kent and stepping into the not the role, but the role that he has been playing in the show after all these years, and this artist that I admired way back then, who is now loves what I do enough to say, hey, carry the torch for a little while. It's really an honor.
That is amazing because obviously, people associate you, with either your own performances, performing alongside Jinkx, maybe Drag Race other performers. But what's this like? You've already been doing this for a couple of days. I mean, what's this Chicago experience? How's the crowds? How's everything been for you so far?
The crowds have been incredible. This show is so much fun, and the cast is just, I mean, I have to say, I am loving working with this cast. They are so cool and talented. That's folks from Chicago, Liv Warfield, who's from Peoria, and then incredible circus artists from Brazil and the Ukraine. And everyone is just like hilarious and charismatic and so skilled. And so to get to be integrated in this group is awesome. And the audiences are just, they just come and they have such a good time and they eat it up. And it does feel in a lot of ways like going back to my Seattle roots, where it's pulling in some of that emceeing kind of vibe in the way that you interact with the audience, but then it's also pulling in what I do now in terms of narrative theater, and it's really cool. It feels like a space that sometimes you wind up somewhere and you're like, oh, all the different things I've done in the past added up to this in a way I didn't realize.
Yeah. No, 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 it's wonderful too because I mean, there's such a like you mentioned Liv Warfield and she got to perform alongside Prince. I mean, just the talent and the people that come here from other countries, they get to perform. I mean, no two experiences are ever the same. Like you go one week and you go a couple months later and it's a completely different show with a different complete energy and it just takes you to a different time period of like just walking into that space.
Yeah. And this one's really cool. I mean, Zinzani's obviously been here for a while, and they decided with this show that they really wanted to make it a love letter to Chicago. So,
Yeah.
it's really that's the sort of theme is summer in Chicago. And so it's fun to use the DeLa character. She's sort of coming into Chicago and she's on a tour and she's like exploring the city, and to get to do that with both tourists who might be learning some ooh, my AirPod. To do that with both tourists who might be learning about the city, but a lot of locals who are getting to kind of have this Chicago pride sort of reflected back at them is really it's been awesome to see the way the audience responds to that love for the city.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier the holiday special, and tell me a little bit about your friendship with Jinkx. I mean, obviously Jinkx is killing it on Broadway right now. Like we're so proud of her, but like it has just been amazing to see the two of you and so many people from the RuPaul's Drag Race platform just kind of go out and do their own thing and take over the world.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's amazing what that platform can do when you really decide to use it as a springboard. And so really, I feel so fortunate that what I am doing now is the thing that I have loved since before Drag Race, but I just get to do it at such a larger level. And Jinx and I met in Seattle before either of us were on Drag Race. We started working together. I initially like actually cast her in one of my holiday shows was the first time that we worked together. And so it's very rare you get to work alongside somebody where you experience sort of every phase of your career together, and it's really a cool bonding experience to go from these little venues for $50 in Seattle a million years ago to her asking me to co-write and direct her in Carnegie Hall. That's like it's a really special thing, and I just I don't know. I am so incredibly lucky to get to do what I love for a living.
Yeah, yeah, and something else that I admire about you is, your creative nature, the way that you've kind of always, stood up for yourself and, that self-elimination. I think a lot of people, it's represented something for you, but also I think for the community and just the way that has kind of lived on. And, so many people still talk about it. And I think they look within themselves to say like, this is a moment, like for me and like I'm standing up for myself. Like, I mean, what is that moment kind of, I mean, obviously it's become bigger than 3 seconds on television, but like over the years, like what has that meant for you and for your fans as well?
I mean, it's been incredible all around. I mean, for me, it was, in the time, it was something that felt really right for me in the way that, it's so rare that in life you have these moments of clarity where you're like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do right now. I was provided this really perfect moment in time where I had just gotten to do really well, and I knew that my sort of showing was irrefutable. And I also got to say, I actually don't align myself with the terms of this competition, and you very rarely get to do that. And for me, it was really freeing to then. I think it only allowed me more to go back out into the world and be like, you know what? I don't want to limit what I do as an artist to this container or what I'm told it needs to be over here or to what another producer you know
Yeah.
thinks will be marketable. And
Yeah.
so it really freed me up to just be like, drag is about your own rules and always has been. And so that's when I started my production company. That's when all of this sort of blew up into something even larger than it was. And I get people talking to me a lot, like approaching me a lot and saying, that in a small or large way, that moment allowed them to make a change in their life, whether it was leaving a job they didn't like, or leaving a relationship or a living situation that wasn't good for them. That, that we still get to define our future at any moment, no matter what we're being told the parameters are. The parameters, somebody else made them up. They are not ours, and we do not have to live by them.
Exactly. And I think that's 100% why that moment will always be iconic, because a lot of people can relate to that no matter what they're going through in their lives.
Yeah, I'm really, you never know whether something that you put out there is going to be received the way that you intend it. And not everyone understood it, but a lot of people did. And that is just it's a very special feeling to be able to communicate something really deep in a very brief moment that people resonate with.
Exactly. The final thing here, obviously Chicago has changed, since you went to school here, restaurants, nightclubs and whatnot, old stomping grounds, old friends. Like, Tim, you tell me a little bit about like what you've been doing on your off time or kind of hope to do, through July.
Yeah, well, I mean, so far there's been very little off time. I got here and we had like a really breakneck 10-day rehearsal process where it was just go, go, go. Then we got straight into our opening weekend. I've had 2 days off and I uh did very little with that. But I do have old friends here who are still here from my time here. I have a couple Seattle friends who have moved here since. So I'm so grateful that I get to reconnect with some of that community. And yeah, in the show I talk a little bit about re-exploring, Lakeview and the museum and some of those old stomping grounds you mentioned. And I lived in Logan Square for a long time, Wicker Park, and so I'm really, yeah, I haven't made it there yet, and I'm really excited because I know it's changed so much to just go and sort of see how the city has grown and flourished. Even just being in the loop, I'm like, I certainly don't remember this restaurant scene. Holy crap, there's a lot of good food around here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely wonderful, definitely changing, and definitely, take advantage of your time here, because you're here through July 19th at Teatro Zinzanni, zinzanni.com/Chicago for those tickets. Enjoy your time here. BenDeLaCreme, you're the best, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.